So here we are, live again on a Monday morning at just after 8:30. So hello to everyone watching, and let's start off this week. Let's hope it is less traumatic than last week, where just before I was about to go on, I was in a hotel and I dropped my laptop on the floor. Silly thing to do. And of course, it all went haywire. So the laptop's in the repair shop. I'll get that back this week, and bought a backup laptop. So if it happens again, I'll have a way of broadcasting. So sorry for all those people that were expecting it last week and couldn't deliver on that, but I'm back this week. So last week I was away on a 5-day retreat with my top level mentees. We're kicking off a year of working together with some really big goals for them to achieve this year. So I'm going to look forward to helping them. Anyway, on today. So it's a Monday morning property finance Q&A. And the object of that is that you guys ask a question, something to do with property finance, and I'll answer it based on my 20 plus years experience as a property finance broker. So it's a two-way thing really, isn't it? If you don't ask any questions, I haven't got any answers to give you. So we're this should have been Freedom Day, shouldn't it? 21st of June should have been Freedom Day. Unfortunately, it isn't Freedom Day. Not yet, anyway. So we could be another 4 weeks away from that, or possibly 2 weeks away from that, depending on the government's view. Bit of a shame, really, because I think everyone wanted to sort of open up and hit stage 4 of the roadmap. So, questions, guys. What questions have you got? Got a question on property finance? Ping it in there. A couple of people saying hello, and that's very nice. Hello. So, I'm here with my cup of tea, waiting for some questions. So, in the meantime, let me tell you about something I've got coming up in a couple of weeks. Some more people saying good morning. So on the first weekend of July, I've got another double header, which is a live stream property finance masterclass on the Saturday, 3rd of July. And I'm down in Bristol. Well, I'll be down in Bristol all the weekend, but in Bristol by Refurb Refinance Summit on Sunday, the 4th of July. No, I'm not down in Bristol. I'm up in Leeds. Bristol was last month. So I'm up in Leeds. Yeah. So first weekend of July, double header. You can get some more info on buy, refurb, refinance, recycling your cash, either in the comfort of your own home on the Saturday, or come to me and meet me in the Leeds hotel on the Sunday. So let me give you a couple of links. You can book on to either of those. Let me just grab these. So if you want to do it from without leaving home, then this is the link. Property Finance Masterclass link. There we go. That's popped in there now. And if you're not too far from Leeds and you're free on Sunday, the 4th of July, American Independence Day, of course, we know that. Let's find the link to that. Pop that in there while we wait for a question. We are. So if you want to spend some time with me on the, feel free. Love to do that. Love to see you on either on a Zoom call on the Saturday or actually in person on the Sunday. Got a couple of interesting speakers as well as myself on the Sunday, so happy to help you on that. So, questions. That's what we want. Fire away with a question. We've got one coming in from Altaf, which we're going to deal with now. So, got a question about property finance? Ping it in the chat box and I'll answer it. So here we go. Morning, Altaf. Can a lease option or lease option on a commercial property with redevelopment potential mixed use be finance? No, it can't. Simple reason is the person or company that can finance it is whose name's on the deeds. Now, if you got a lease option, it ain't you. So so if you're trying to refinance a development or you want to do any work on it, you're gonna have to pay for it yourself, fella, because no one's going to lend you money to do that. You got to buy it if you want to borrow money to be able to do any redevelopment. Simple rule of thumb. Lenders that wanted to lend for that sort of stuff want security, and the borrower gives the security because it's the property that they own, and you have to own the property to be able to do that. So if you want some help on how you own the property, happy to help you on that. Right, so I've got another question coming in there. So hey, got a question? Ping the answer. Oh, ping the question in. Let me answer it. That's what I'm here to do. It's the whole point of a Monday morning Q&A. Vita, good. Thanks for your question. If you have 60k, is it worthy to invest in a ready-made HMO? Well, that depends really, because 60k is going to have to cover your deposit, your stamp duty, your legal fees, and a valuation. So you can get a 75% mortgage on an HMO, possibly a bit more, but on not such good terms. So you're really looking at saying, can I buy an HMO in the area that I want to be in for less than 200,000, because that's all your 60k is gonna cover in terms of all those costs that I just said. So that's the first question. Can you buy HMOs in the area that you want to do it for less than 200k? Maybe you can, maybe you can't. Depends what area of the UK it is. Now, if you're investing in a ready-made HMO, well, if your ambition is only to own one HMO, then great, because once your 60 grand's in there and it's already made, that cash is locked in there for several years to come. You're not going to be able to refinance that cash back out again. Now, if that's not what you want to do, I want to buy one property and then I'm done, then no, it isn't worth investing in a ready-made HMO, because you'll never be able to recycle any cash out. If you want to recycle some cash out, you're going to have to buy a property, convert it into an HMO, exponentially uplift the value, and then refinance onto an HMO mortgage and pull as much of that 60k back out as you can. Now, I did a video on that. Here we are, yeah. So let me just get this one for you. Oops. I'm getting the wrong one here. I want to pause that. Right. This is the one. So I did a video a couple of weeks ago actually called Cash, Ready to Rent or Do a Upper. So let's put that in here, because that might help you. A few more questions coming in now, so thank you. I'll get round to answering them all in turn. There we are. So have a look at the link I've put in there, Vita. Hopefully you can see that. And that runs through, if you're going to buy cash or ready to rent, which is what your one is, ready-made, ready to rent. You haven't got to do anything to it. You just put tenants in there. And you can see whether that is the the best thing to be doing or not. And you said, thank you. You're very welcome. Good. Okay, so moving on. So I aim to be here till about 9 o'clock. Sometimes it stretches over that if there's enough questions. But yeah, it's just a quick Monday morning. Hi, how you doing? Let's set the week up with some Q&A, and we'll crack on. So, got another question here. JC, good to see you back again. Sorry I wasn't around last week. In this climate, are valuers accepting the new house price increase, or are they reluctant? Yeah, good question. Well, you see, here's the issue, I think, that the market in certain areas for certain properties is really, really frothy at the moment, isn't it? And you're finding properties are being sold, in 24 hours, often above the asking price. Now, think about this at the minute. When an agent is advising a seller, their client, on what property to put the market to put on the market, they're never going to say, well, let's be cautious, let's just put it at a lower figure and see what we get. It's not how agents work, unless they're specifically guided by the seller saying, I want a quick sale. So mostly the agent, you could call it flying a kite. The agent says, look, don't know if we'll get it, but let's try at this price. So let's go bang high, let's go high and see, we can always drop it and accept lower offers. Now, if agents are doing that, but the offers coming in are over the asking price, you can question, is that just over enthusiastic buyers, or is that the real value? So I think, positioning that is the important thing here. Now, unless they're a cash buyer, they're going to need a mortgage. And the mortgage lender's value is going to come out relatively uninfluenced by the frothy market and looking at real values. So if someone's gone 20 grand over the asking price on what was already a toppy price to start with, the probability is the mortgage lender's valuer is going to come back and say it ain't worth 20 grand over the asking price. Maybe it's worth the asking price at best. So I think what we're seeing at the moment is a lot of enthusiastic or motivated buyers getting knocked back on their mortgage. Not they can't get a mortgage on it. And in fact, I saw a post like this last week. I can't remember the figures exactly now, but it says it, it's come back, I don't know, 20, 30,000 pound less than they'd agreed to pay. So what should they do? Well, they can go back to the seller and say the valuation doesn't stack up, or they can suck it up and realise that they got a bit over enthusiastic and they cough up the extra money on top of the deposit they were already geared up to pay. Now, if people haven't got that extra deposit, they're going to have to drop out if the seller won't drop the price. So I think it is, it's a phenomenon that we're seeing in the last few months because of the buoyant prices in certain parts of the country. So, I think that's a fact. There we are. So there we are. Are they accepting the new house prices? No, they're reluctant generally, unless the underlying value supports it. Good. Thanks for your question. Moving on. Okay, so we've got a Facebook user here. I go out through a StreamYard facility, so it broadcasts in a number of different areas, and Facebook preserves the anonymity of people unless they give permission. So this person didn't give permission. I'll find out who it is when I drill down into the comments later on today. But morning, Kevin. When refinancing a first-time HMO, would SA experience be taken into consideration as landlord experience? Well, there's not a hard and fast rule to that, because it's really going to depend on the lender's underwriter. So you have got experience of renting out properties, although SA is a bit different because, you're renting essentially by the night, not on 6 months. So I would say that at least some lenders would class that as landlord experience. Now, I'm assuming that this is your SA experience is properties that you've owned and you're not just like a managing agent. Again, that could be a factor as well. So if you're an SA landlord for properties that you own, rather than just SA you run on a rent-to-rent basis, that could be a difference as well there. So now, if you're looking to do this, then get in touch with me, and we'll very happily broker that and see what your options are as a first-time HMO landlord. And there are one or two lenders, as long as it ain't a 15-bedroom HMO, there are one or two lenders actually that won't require any experience, just want you to be a homeowner. If you can tick that box, then we're going to find something for you anyway. So we're very happy to help you. A couple more questions coming in there now. There we are. So we got Peter. Good to see you back again. Is a personal guarantee needed when refinancing a commercial property, newly renovated and value added? It's a new SPV with no accounts. Okay, so a new SPV, special purpose vehicle, i.e. limited company. You don't need to have accounts because mortgage lenders are certainly happy to lend to a new HMO. In some cases, they prefer that because there's no skeletons in the cupboard. There's no adverse trading history. So that's no problem at all. So I've got a few more questions coming in now there. So there's some zip down there. I want to make sure I don't miss any. So, okay, personal guarantees are generally needed by most lenders. And for those that don't need it, you'll probably pay a punitive rate of interest. Why are personal guarantees needed when you're borrowing money in the name of a limited company? The answer is simply because as the shareholder and owner of the company, you can shut it down overnight. Now, if you did that, it causes additional problems for the mortgage lender. So they want the ability to, if you did that, and if they had to repossess the property and sell it, and there was a shortfall, there might not be because they gear their lending so that they can sell it without a shortfall. But if there was a shortfall, they can come after you as the borrower behind the limited company. So that's why PGs are normally required. So in most cases, yes, you will need one, and you'll certainly need one to get access to the best rates on a commercial property. Good, thanks for your question. And if you need a mortgage on that commercial mortgage, love to broker that for you. Okay, JC's back with another question. Loving your questions, JC. Ceiling value on a street is approximately 200,000. So what do you mean by that? Ceiling value, i.e. the most a property has ever sold for on that street. Can you do a refurb to uplift the value to approximately 220? Well, that looks like a risk escalation to me. So no one's ever refurbed a property on this street. No one's ever refurbed a property and sold it for more than 200. But can you do it and lift it up to approximately 220? I would say that's a risky strategy, wouldn't you? So what are you going to do to the property that no one else has ever done to a property and managed to sell it for more than 200,000? With the question. So I'm not saying it's impossible, but the probability is no. Although, as you've previously alluded to, prices are toppy at the moment. So maybe you would get a buyer that would come along and give you 220 for it. But you're taking an element of risk. I mean, if you could only sell it at 200, what would that do to the profitability of the deal? Is that 20 grand extra? Is it the icing on the cake, and you can still make a decent profit if you sell it at 200? Not such a risk. If you need that 220 to make a reasonable profit, then that's a lot more risky. And back with another one. What adds the most value to a refurb? Looking to get the most out of a project. What adds the most value? Additional living space. That's what adds the most value. So if you increase the living space, i.e. by extending it, whether that's up to the side, out the back, or whatever, and if it hasn't been previously extended, you can do that under permitted development rights. You don't need planning permission for that. So that's what increases the value most. If you've got the opportunity to add an extra bedroom, now that could also be by extending the living space, or it could even be if you've got a large room, you can divide into two. That's a pretty cost-effective way. So those are the things that add the most value. Gary, there we are. I remember you were on one of my masterclasses a month or two ago, so good to see you here. Where can you get a list of areas in towns or cities that have Article 4 in place? Yeah, well, Google is your friend. So just Google Article 4 areas in the UK, and you should be able to get some sort of guide on that. Now, do you actually need it for the whole of the UK? In other words, are you prepared to invest anywhere in the UK, or do you just need it for the areas that you invest in or want to invest in? Now, it's fair to say that Article 4 is like a creeping menace, if you like. So more and more councils are adopting Article 4 restrictions to limit the growth of HMOs. So many councils are taking the view now there's more than enough HMOs in that vicinity, and they want to restrict the proliferation of further HMOs. So good, thanks for your question. So a couple more. Alex is here. Morning, Alex. One thing that we've run into recently is mortgage lenders for buyers are asking for properties to have been held for at least 6 months before they're willing to lend to new buyers. Is this the norm? Nothing new about this, Alex. Always been the case. If you're buying a property to flip and you're flipping it to a main res buyer, which you should always be doing, because main res buyers buy with their heart, not with their head. Landlords should be buying with their head. So you'll get a better price from a main res buyer. Then some lenders are always, and have always, certainly for the last 10 years, since mortgage lending was rewritten, if you like, post-credit crunch. So for at least the last 10 years, there's always been some lenders that says that the seller has to have owned the property for at least 6 months. Now, can you get round it? Yes. Now, if you're putting it up with an agent and the agent has got a mortgage broker in situ, you can word up the broker in the agent's office to just pick lenders that don't impose this 6 month seller ownership restriction. And also, you're better off to be upfront with your buyers and say, hey, look, we create nice homes for people to live in from, pretty rundown properties, and we do this as a business. But just so you know, there are some lenders that you can pick that want us to own it 6 months. Well, we can turn it around in quicker than 6 months. So you're still going to, your broker can still find your lenders, but there'll be some lenders that want us to own it 6 months, which is going to delay things. If you want to wait 6 months, that's fine. So that's really the way to. Transparency is definitely the way to approach it. Be open and upfront with your buyers, their solicitor if you happen to talk to those, and certainly your agent. As this results in flipping properties, mean you'll have additional costs to think about when buying. Well, as I said, you can get around it, Alex, but you may decide whether you want to factor in the costs of holding the property for 6 months before your buyer's mortgage application commences. So yeah, but it's nothing new. Okay, then we got a couple more questions. JC's back with another one. Why are valuers so cautious on buy-to-let mortgage, even though the borrower is putting down a 25% mortgage? House prices have never dropped up to 25% in the UK ever. Yeah, okay, that's a fair question, JC. So buy-to-let lenders like to go 75% because if you don't pay the mortgage on a monthly basis, and if they have to repossess you, they want to be able to quickly get rid of the property and get their money back. Now, if they can put it out either at auction or to a specialist agent to sell it for them, and they can sell it, or put it up for 75% of its true value, it should be snapped up pretty quickly. But the higher that goes, in other words, the more difficult it begins and the more protracted that might be. So let's say you have I wouldn't disagree that house prices have never dropped 20% in the UK, 25% in the UK, certainly not for a prolonged period. So, but they could have dropped 10% or 15%. So now your mortgage lender trying to get their money back is not trying to put it out at 75% of its true current value at that time, but it could be 85 or even 90%. Now that's a lot tougher ask. So, so valuers are cautious because the lender they're working for tells them to be. They're also cautious because if it should come to light in subsequent years that they've overvalued a property, then the mortgage lender can lodge a claim on their professional indemnity insurance, which is going to cost them several £1,000s. So they're keen to avoid that too. So hopefully that helps. Got a couple more here. Oh, more than a couple more. There we are. Good. Okay, well, we're hitting the 9 o'clock, so I'm not done on questions now. Bit slow to start, but you picked up, didn't you? You picked up the pace. Got some questions in. Right, so where are we? There we are. Certified rides. Okay, good. Morning. You would like to purchase a property using the BRRR strategy, buy, refurb, refinance, rent. But I'm priced out of this anywhere near me. Yeah, okay, that's that's not an unfamiliar thing. There are, if you live in a more expensive part of the UK, not unusual you would be priced out of that. How far away from you from home would you use this strategy? Well, first part of the rationalisation there is how far have you got to go before you're not priced out of it. So wherever you live, if you went out from where you live in a 360-degree direction, how far away from where you live would you have to go not to be priced out of it? 30 minutes, an hour, 2 hours, 3 hours, what? So that's the first thing to determine. How far away from home have you got to go not to be priced out of it? Once you've done that, now realistically, how feasible is it for you to work that far away from home? Because the further it is from where you live, the more challenging it is to run and maintain. So if it needs a refurb, which it would do because that's the BRR strategy, buy, refurb, refinance, and then rent out, you've got to cope with running a refurb. If you're doing the work yourself, you've got the travelling distance. If you're paying others to do the work, you've got to keep an eye on them if you don't use them. So if they're from that area, not your area, first of all, you've got to find them. Then you've got to keep an eye on them, make sure they're doing what you want at the price you want to do it at. And then you've got to rent it out. So, if you're going to rent it yourself, how practical is that? You know, every time the tenant wants something, you've got an hour or two's journey, more of that maybe. Or can you find a letting agent to do that? So those really are the questions on how far from home to be. So it's a question of practicality. So how far can you practically run a property from where you live? Good. Hope that helps. Fintan, there we are. Any tips on trying to get a quick sale? Yeah. The first thing to do is price it competitively. So properties that hang around are generally ones that are overpriced. So the first thing is price it competitively for what you're trying to sell. So, you know, because if you want to sell something quick, you usually have to knock the price down and sell it a bit cheaper. I'm not saying knock the arse out of it, but sell it a bit cheaper. And also, how appealing does it look for buyers? You know, what's the curb appeal like? Or does it look a bit tatty? Is it cluttered inside? You know, is there a lot of stuff around that people don't take it kindly to? You know, is it a disincentive to buy it? So how buyer friendly is your property? There we are, a couple of things there. Okay, there was Valerie. I was talking at the beginning of today's program about the 5-day immersion event I was on last week, where I dropped my laptop and broke it, and well, Valerie was there. So and it was didn't we have a brilliant time, Valerie? It was amazing, wasn't it? So will a bridger lend on the cost of a short lease as well as the purchase cost? Yes, they will, as long as the uplift in value is significant enough. Bridgers will give you 100% of the cost of extending a lease, as well as the purchase cost. You know, they'll typically lend 70 to 75% of the purchase cost, unless you're buying below value. You can use a market value bridge. Look at my YouTube channel. So for anyone else watching this, if you're not over on my YouTube channel yet, let me give you a link to that, because there's there's over 100 videos on there now. And if you've already subscribed to that, thank you. I'm just going to pop the link to my YouTube channel there. Okay. So a few more mornings here. Okay, so here's another Facebook user. So I'll check out who it is later. Hope all is well. All is very well. Thank you for asking. Understand that there are further advanced BRRR mortgages out there where you buy a place on a normal buy-to-let, refurb, and then the lender releases equity as the values have increased. Are these products widely available? Yeah, they are. You know, most mortgage lenders would consider, using the word advisedly, consider a further advance if you've improved the property once you've purchased it, and as long as you've made 6 monthly payments on time each month. So they want you to, even if you're an existing customer, they still want to see that you've run that mortgage in the way they would like. In other words, you haven't missed any payments, or you've been late with any payments. So you become eligible for a further advance once you've made 6 monthly payments. All you got to do is phone them up and ask them, and they'll come out, send the valuer out. You might have to pay for that, and they'll make a judgment. Now, caveat here is that they wouldn't have given you the mortgage in the first place if it was in too bad a condition, because the premise of buy-to-let mortgages are that they're given on a ready-to-rent basis, which means that there's some tolerance for work, but if it was a real wreck, the likelihood is that when the valuer goes around there, they would say it's got a nil value for mortgage purposes because it's in too poor condition. So yes, the further advances are generally available with a lot of lenders, but you might find that your ability to uplift the value is limited because the property has to be in reasonable condition to start with. Good. Okay, so Annie, thanks for your question. In relation to the ceiling value, if no one else has an HMO on the street, hence the refurb is the first one, and about a quarter mile house prices are more favourable, would this be consideration? Okay, so most HMOs, unless it's more than 7 bedrooms or more, are not going to get valued any different to a rental property anyway. Sorry, to a standard property. I mean, most HMOs are still going to get bricks and mortar valuation. So the fact that where there's an HMO on the street is irrelevant. It won't affect the value. So they'll still be valued as an ordinary house, even though you're temporarily using it as an HMO by putting more tenants in there. And as soon as those tenants leave, it's back to being an ordinary property. So just being an HMO is not going to increase the ceiling value. The refurb is the first one. Well, I mean, how likely is it that in a whole street of houses, no property has ever been refurbed and sold? It's possible, but I would guess unlikely, because people do. Most people sell nice houses. The majority of houses in the street that sell are in reasonable condition. They might not be in tip-top condition, but they're in reasonable condition. If a quarter mile house prices are more favourable, well, that might be because it's a nicer area or even a nicer street. So that would be down to a RICS valuer to determine that in consideration. And this is where, remember, these guys and women are professionally trained. So this is something they've been trained on how to value, and all these different configurations. They know how to factor those in. So again, if you're trying to get more than the ceiling value on a property, it becomes a riskier strategy. And you have to factor in, does it still work for you as a deal if you don't get that valuation above ceiling value? Thanks for your question. Nice to see you here, Annie. Okay, so we got now Steve. There we are. So Steve is being gifted money. In the eyes of a mortgage company, is it better to have this put into my limited company bank account or in my personal and then transfer it to limited company? Okay, depends who's gifting you the money, Steve. So either of those things are not the biggest issue. What a lender's going to be more concerned about is who's gifting it to you, because they're very skeptical about gifted money, because people don't just give tens of thousands of pounds to people in all but exceptional circumstances. So parents would give money to their children and not expect it to be repaid. Very few other people will. So often it's not gifted at all. It's a loan dressed up as a gift to make it look more acceptable to mortgage lenders, but they've sussed this out. So they're going to be. So the key thing is who's giving you this money and why are they giving it to you, and why don't they want it repaid? So that's the big question that mortgage lenders, underwriters are going to be concerned with. They're going to be less concerned about whether you put it straight into your bank account, or whether it's gone into your personal one and you've transferred it into the company. So they're happy to guide you further on that, Steve, if you want to get in touch with me. Guerrilla Investors here. Good to see you back. Am I allowed to live in a buy-to-let property temporarily to do repairs if I live far away from the property? Most lenders would say, no, you're not. Your builders are, or your tradesmen possibly could be, but you not, really. So there we are. And you straight back with another one. Our buy-to-let mortgage is portable. Yeah. Now, how does it work? So how it works is that you sell a property, you pay a redemption penalty if one is applicable, and you get a window of opportunity, usually 3 or sometimes 6 months, to take out a new mortgage. If you take out a new mortgage within that time, then the deal that you previously had would be reinstated on your new property, and any redemption penalty that you had paid would be refunded back to you. What if the property is a new value? Well, that adds a bit of a complication, doesn't it? Because it's a certain value. So they would probably give you the same terms. So if it was a 75% mortgage, you could apply it to 75% of your new lower value property. But that does add an element of complication. Okay, you've seen a 4-bed HMO flat commercially valued by agents. Why do they do this? Because they want to. Because it sounds attractive. Because it makes a property more appealing. Doesn't mean to say that a mortgage lender's value is going to back up that. But, an agent's role is to get the best price for their seller. That's their role. So they can do whatever they like, really, that pushes, that makes that outcome more achievable. Okay, so Steve's popped back with it's your stepdad. Yeah, okay, that might work. If you want us to help you on that, Steve, then and you've got a property you want to buy, then you might, hang fire with the money in there, and then we can do some research on which lenders, excuse me, which lenders would favour one way or the other. Good. Alex is back with another question. Good to see you. We have a remodel going on at the moment. We have used CGI images to create interest locally. Yeah, smart marketing move. I'm still here, by the way, but it's quite a big question. We've already had viewers before we've even started the work that we're going to carry out. Is there any benefit to selling without an agent other than the fees you're saving? Or would you suggest it's best to allow it to go to open market, which could increase the potential sale price and open the doors to some inter-agent mortgage brokers? Yeah, I mean, the main reason to use an agent is their ability to market a property, Alex, to the widest audience. So even if you've had people looking at it, you could probably have more people looking at it if they knew it was on the market or it was going to be on the market. So you could quite easily offset the agent's fees by achieving a higher sale price with greater marketing. And you don't pay for any of the marketing with an agent. That all comes in as part of your completion fee. And of course, if you're going back to your less than 6 months ownership as the seller, then so you're going to open the door to more agents. So I think it's probably worth doing. Good. Okay, so we seem to be there. We've done. We've had a little chat for what, I don't know, 3/4 of an hour. Answered a few questions. Hopefully that's helped you. If you want to message me, let me just give you my easiest place to contact me. There we are. So it's the inbox in my page on Kevin Wright, Property Finance Expert. Let's pop that in the chat box. So if you contact me about anything, here's one way to do it. I mean, if you know another way, I usually pick things up whichever way you contact, and I return calls, emails as quickly as I can. Okay, got a couple more here. Nipped it. I thought I was done, and as often happens, in come another couple of questions. Well, I do say I'll stay here until all the questions are answered. So there we are. Mike, there we are. Good to see you. Are lenders happy for you to take equity out of your own home to be used as deposit to buy another property? Some lenders are, not all. So someone like Nationwide, for example, I know because we've had this recently, said they don't like you doing that. But other lenders are quite open to it. Now, whether you can do it or not depends on whether you've maximised your borrowing potential currently. So because main residence mortgage lending is an income expenditure exercise. What you spend versus what you earn. And if you're not at your maximum based on that lender's calculations, then you can take some equity out. If you are, if they said you've got equity in your house, but we think you're already at the most you can afford based on what we know about your income and your expenditure, going to be more difficult, but possible. Yeah, happy to drill down and look at the details on that, Mike. So just ping me a message and we'll let you know if that's possible for you. Alex, as a business with the right SIC code and the ability to list things on Rightmove and Zoopla, we can actually reach their same targets. Okay, then, but you presumably have got a marketing cost. So yeah, you got then if you think you don't need an agent, then go for it. A couple of thanks there for the answers. So that's good. Oh, Ben's popped in here with a late one. There we are. If you remortgage, do you pay tax on the money you take out? No, you don't, Ben, because it's not income. You're just drawing out the money that is already yours. It's not income, so it's not taxed. Simple answer to that. There we are. Good. So looks like we're going to wrap up for today. So thanks for those. If you're watching the replay actually to this, then just hit #replay so that I know you've watched it. I know some people watch the beginning but don't watch the end, or miss the beginning but watch the end, or some people miss it altogether because they're working. And understandable on a Monday morning. But whichever way you do it, if you're watching the replay, put a #replay in there so I know you watched it. Helps me understand how people view this. And hey, I'm going to be back next Monday at 8:30, and we'll do it all again. So in the meantime, have a fabulous week. I certainly intend to. You see, I'm just about to go, and up pops another question. Okay. Charel, there we are. At what point can you refinance a bridge property? At the point you've maximised its value. Very simply, Charel. As soon as you maximise the value, then you can refinance it. There we are. Tracy, there we are. Good to see you. Now we're going to meet in Leeds on the 4th of July because you're coming to my buy refurb refinance summit. You and your partner already booked your tickets. There's still some more. Tickets available for everyone else. So if you want to come along, we're not at capacity yet. There we are. What is considered as habitual? Do you mean habitable? I'm not quite sure what habitual means, but well, I know what it means, but in the context of a property. So do you mean what is considered habitable? Well, that depends. For you to live in or to rent out, because that's different. So for you to live in, oh, okay, so you said yes, habitable. So for you to live in, it's got to be functional. So can you cook? Can you toilet? Can you wash? If you're going to rent it out, functional is not good enough. It's got to be desirable. In other words, is it a good enough quality? Not merely can you do those things, but is it a good enough quality that people are going to pay rent to rent out? Yeah. Yeah. Okay. To rent out. Yeah. It's got to be desirable. In other words, is it good enough? Is it good enough? Oh, where's that come from? Sorry, I didn't mean to put that one up. Yeah. A mortgage lender's value is going to say, would I pay money to live in this? So there we are. Okay, Ben says, great. What about when you sell the house? Do you pay tax on the selling price? Is it seen as income? No. Well, that depends. So you don't pay tax on the selling price. You pay tax on the profit between what you bought it for and what you sold it for. So it's taxed on the profit. Now, which tax you pay is going to depend on how long you've owned it. If you've owned it for less than a year, then it will be seen as income. And you'll pay the capital gains tax or corporation tax. Now, hasten to say here, whenever we're talking about tax, I'm not an accountant. But this is what I've understood from many accountants I've talked to over the years. If you've rented it out for several years and you make a profit when you sell it, it's not seen as income then, but it is seen as a capital gain. You've made a capital gain from the asset you've owned, and then that's subject to a different tax, capital gains tax. Good. There we are. So Charel said, thanks, good, okay. So there we are then. Looks like we're at the end, unless someone sneaks in with another question. But thanks for your participation today, and I'll be back next week, Monday, 8:30, and we'll have another property finance Q&A. Have a fantastic week. See you then.